Welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast, a podcast for everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. Every week, I am joined by successful guests in all different industries and stages of business who will share what their experience was like transitioning from employee to boss. Expect action steps, inspiration, and hot topics. This is a resource for you if you're wanting to start a business, go all in on your side hustle, get to the next level in your thriving business, or just hear what it's like taking the leap to becoming your own boss. Business can be very lonely, but it does not have to be. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst, the owner of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast production agency specializing in editing, marketing, and strategy. Let's dive into today's topic. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Employee to Boss podcast. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst, and today I have a really amazing guest. Her name is Natalie De Vincenzi. She is a business mentor for kind-hearted, ambitious female entrepreneurs who crave confidence, making an impact, and authentically growing their business. As a mentor, she focuses on the business and the human behind the business through her signature combination of mindset, heartset, and business strategy. Natalie and I met in a coaching program that we're both a part of, and I felt instantly connected to her. I love what she shares on Instagram. I love when she shares her client wins, and I just love the way that she approaches business from this heart-centered approach. So she has a podcast, which is linked in the show notes. Connect with her on Instagram. She's truly just like one of the kindest people, and she's also a world traveler. So she posts the most amazing photos from her travels and how she lives as a digital nomad, basically running her business from all these different countries. And it's just so fun to see her journey and see her grow along with the travel photos. So if you have any questions on business, mindset, heartset, business strategy, definitely connect with Natalie. And I cannot wait for you to listen to this episode. Hey, Natalie, thank you so much for joining me on the Employee to Boss podcast. I am so excited for our conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just so excited to connect with you and be on this podcast and be one of your 100 episodes, which is absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you. So we're in the same coaching program, ITI, and that's how we connected. And then when we were messaging each other, we realized we had all these other things in common, like being from Las Vegas, similar schools, and just so many times that our lives could have crossed before being in the same coaching program. And now you don't live in Vegas, I don't live in Vegas, and we finally connect. And it's just so crazy to me. I love it when things happen like that.
I love it too. I think it's so synchronistic and just honestly things that you couldn't have imagined. We would have never been able to really realize wow, wait, we're from the same place. We went to some of the same schools, but then we also had that flip-flop where I went to one school for elementary, then you went there for middle school, and then where you went for middle school, I was in elementary, just all the back and forth, which I think is so fascinating. But it's really cool to see how small this world actually is. People are like, oh, it's such a big world, but even from my travels, I feel like it's more likely for me to run into someone in a different country than it is to meet them in the same city. It's such a small world. It's such a small world.
Yeah, it really is. And you travel a lot, and I'm excited to hear more about all of your travels. But how about you start off by telling us more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a business mentor and coach. I'm also the founder and CEO of You're Enough Co., which is an apparel company dedicated to mental health awareness, breaking the mental health stigma, and uplifting ourselves and each other. So I have those two businesses at the moment. I'm also kind of working on a third because I just love creation and I can't get enough of business, which is how I even got into business coaching and mentorship. I kind of realized wait, I love helping people build and I love helping people create and just bring a vision into reality. And so that's how I sort of shifted into that. But if you want more background on how I even got here, I can kind of dive into that.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to hear your journey from employee to boss.
Yeah. So I would say it started really in 2020, it was like the beginning of COVID, and obviously everyone was feeling really stressed and really sort of like a lot of pressure, a lot of unknown in the world. And that's when I leaned into the tools that had really helped me navigate and personally change like from the inside out with my stress levels and just how I approach life in general, which was meditation. So March 2020, I was just like on a walk one day, I think, and I wanted to just help. Like, I've always been the kind of person who's like, how can I help? How can I be of service? And I put a meditation on IGTV at the time, just like on my personal account. And people were like, oh my gosh, this was so helpful. You should do this. Like, you're kind of meant for this. And I just leaned into that and sort of surrendered and was like, okay, like I'll do more. If you want more, I'll do more. So then I had like companies reaching out to me, asking me to do meditations for their employees. So that kind of became like my side hustle at the time, where I was working my full 9 to 5. And then I was also just leading these meditations for corporate entities and for different companies. And I loved doing that. It was so fulfilling. And then March of 2021, I had lost a friend to suicide, and that was really the catalyst of starting my business You Are Enough Co, because I felt like not one more person can lose their life to believing that they're not enough. Like, I know like the struggles I've had myself, I know the struggles that my family have had, my friends have had, and I just know like the societal pressure and everything, it can really get to people. And I wanted people to feel like they were enough and are enough. And a way to communicate that is through apparel. Like, I was always the person who loved like Spiritual Gangster and all these companies that just had these like uplifting messages on their apparel. And I thought, you know, so many people are doing this just for 10% of proceeds or 20% of proceeds. I want to be the person who does 100, because this isn't about me. This is about actually creating a change and creating a difference. And that's what I've always loved about business as well, is like the fact that you can make a change and make a difference through business. Like that's ultimately the way in which you can create this massive change in society. So it sort of became this like social enterprise. And then that was like the beginning of my journey. It really just was like friends and family buying from me posting cringy reels on social media, trying to build a following, and like reaching out to people, cold DMing like, hey, so nice to connect, and like, would you want to feature one of our products, things like that. That really just helped the beginning of our business. And then about a year later, I had actually taken a step back at one point because of my mental health, where I was like, okay, talking about all these things is affecting my mental health, and I need to be an embodiment of what we're all about, which is taking care of yourself first and your mental health. So I took a step back from posting on our social media, just because I am like a sensitive, empathic person. And when I hear about all these things, it naturally affects me. And in taking that step back, we actually had Cosmopolitan magazine approach us a few months later, and they featured one of our products, and that was like the catalyst for a business, where so much traffic, so many eyes from people we didn't know, and just like the absolute best possible thing that could have happened for a business. And that allowed it to run on autopilot, to sort of generate all the income and everything itself. And then while that was happening, that's when I sort of decided, okay, I need to pivot and also focus on how I can build another business. I've always wanted to be a coach. I've always wanted to teach people things and help people and just help them be their best and live the life that they want to live. I think a lot of people saw me traveling the world and building businesses, and they were like, how do I do this too? Like, you're in Montenegro one day and you're in like Bosnia the next. Like, what's going on? How do you do this? How do you live like this? And so that's where I was like, well, you have to build a business, and you have to have the time and the location freedom, things like that. And so I pivoted my meditation business essentially into my business coaching. I decided I don't want to just help people de-stress from their Forbes 100 company. I want to help them build the next Forbes 100 company. And that's how I got into the business coaching as well. And that sort of became my new mission and my new vision. And yeah, here we are today. I guess 9 to 5 wise, I left that behind about 8 months ago, I want to say. And that was pretty much because I held on to that because people were like, you have it so good. And they really ingrain it into you, like, oh, you know, the paycheck to paycheck. But they didn't see me being like emotionally and verbally abused behind the scenes. They didn't see the way in which I was like degraded constantly, and also like constantly being demoted and just made to feel less than in so many capacities. And that really trickled into me having to build up my self-belief in myself that I could do it, more than the way that they kept like just treating me poorly. And I'm like happy to dive so much into that, and just like even into the mission of why Business with Heart is what it is.
So that's an amazing journey that you went on. And thanks so much for sharing that, because it's so interesting to me to hear how you got to where you are, because, you know, you don't just wake up one day and you're like, I want to mentor other people. Working with other people in itself is a journey and a half. And so it does take a lot of your own history to be able to then go and mentor other people. And so that's really interesting to me how you started off with meditation and just helping people heal from maybe like the 9 to 5 that you were in, right? You were helping them relax and realize like, okay, my boss yelling at me is not about me. And then you turned it to being like, okay, you can be your own boss too. So there's a lot to dive into here. And I'm really curious, like, an employee mindset is one of those things that I talk about a lot on this podcast. And I think that, you know, I've heard people say through meditation, you can really get past that. And then just through doing actions, you can get, you know, you can always work on it. But do you have advice for anyone who is trying to get more into that entrepreneurial mindset rather than an employee mindset?
Absolutely. I think for a lot of people who are entrepreneurial and they are in that employee role right now, part of what you might notice is like you're a little bit rebellious. Like a part of you doesn't want to be chained to your desk. Like you're not okay with it. You're the kind of person who wants to be outside in the middle of the day instead of being inside on the middle of the day. You're like, it's a weekday, I want to go to my favorite workout class. And if like any part of you is like, yeah, that's what I need to be and that's how I feel, then I feel like you're sort of being called into entrepreneurship. And so it is sort of this like accepting of your rebelliousness and of your identity. The identity work is so important to shift. Like, I am in control of my life and I do determine the direction in which I go, and that sort of ownership. This is a lot of what I work with my clients on too at the beginning, is like owning who you are, how amazing you are, the talents and gifts that you have to bring into the world, and owning your role as a CEO. Because you can definitely get stuck in that employee mindset of like, even when you switch to being an entrepreneur of like, okay, I have to work 9 to 5 and like my income is determined based on the amount of hours that I work and how much I produce. And so you have to switch your identity to know I'm an entrepreneur, things flow to me easily, and I'm in control and determine the destination to which I go and the direction which I go. So I would say, like, in terms of advice, focusing on the identity of who you want to become. And when you say, like, when you begin to be like, I am this person, the actions sort of come from that. A lot of people focus on the how, but it really comes from the who. So like, do I need to be? And then you get the action plan, the roadmap of the how. Another thing that really, really helped me, which was kind of the like catalyst of being like, F this, like I have to leave this job like now, was scripting work. Scripting is something that even with some of my clients, I have them do just to become even more regulated to certain financial amounts or things like that when things feel uncomfortable or outside of you. Scripting is really just about bringing the future into the now. So something like, it is now June 1st, let's say it's July 1st, 2024, and I am so happy and fulfilled now that I am working with 5 dream clients and I'm making $15,000 a month. This is the life that I've always wanted to be living. I'm happily living that now. Something like along those lines, where you're bringing what you want into the now, and then your identity starts to become that, and it starts to become like mentally ingrained in you, and then you notice your actions are coming from a place of that already being mentally ingrained in you. And over time, you start to realize like, okay, I have so much more to offer and I'm worth so much more than what this is. So the last thing I would say is like acknowledging that, one, what you want also wants you, and your calling is calling you, and that what you're worth is Probably so much more than what you're being paid. Also, sorry, one more thing too is like there's so much to talk about on this is building someone else's legacy versus your own. And I preach on this
Yes,
because
yes.
at the end of the day, like, if you were to die tomorrow, and I know that that's like a very not something that people want to confront or face a lot, but it is very confronting in that aspect of, would you be happy? And every time I would ask myself, like, would I be happy if I died tomorrow? It would be a no, only because I was working for someone else. And working for myself every single day since then, it's like, yes, 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 yes. Even if I haven't reached and achieved the biggest goals that I've set for myself, knowing that I'm so in alignment with that vision is the best possible thing that you could have. And knowing that every single day you're working towards your vision, not someone else's mission and vision, and building your legacy is something that you can't fulfill in a different role or working for someone else.
Yeah, I agree with that. And how you mentioned before when you were building your other business, your apparel business, you were posting cringy reels. But I think posting cringy reels is way better than working in a job that you don't feel fulfilled in, right? That's what I hear a lot of people say where they're like, "Oh, I can't post that. People will
Mm-hmm.
judge me." And I'm like, do you really believe that? You might really believe that, but is that true? That's
Mm-hmm.
definitely something that you have to get over when you do start any business. You do have to put your face out there. And this is a little off topic, but there's this whole new like thing about faceless
Mm-hmm.
Instagrams or faceless accounts, TikTok. And that to me, I think is just like a step in a weird direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like that's similar to if you're working in a business that maybe your boss doesn't even know your name or the VP doesn't know your name.
Well
It's
said.
like it just doesn't make sense to me. Like you are building your legacy, so through a faceless account, how are you going to do that?
Right. Well, I think that's where oftentimes with those sort of businesses, they're not actually building their legacy. They're building
Mm,
someone else's legacy. They're marketing and selling a product that someone else created rather than
yeah.
marketing and selling a product that they created based on their own experience. And that's even like a lot of what I help my clients with is they feel like they have to, hide behind reels talking about stickers and different fonts and the aesthetics and things like that versus actually showing their experience and their knowledge because one feels more vulnerable and the other one feels safe. Showcasing someone else's product and hiding behind these sticker reels and things like that, it feels more comfortable because it's not putting yourself out there and putting your face there. It's not like letting someone into your world, into your experience, into your wisdom and your knowledge, which feels a lot more scary because you're letting yourself be seen. So a lot of times it does come down to just like owning the fact that you have this knowledge, this experience, you do have enough to share. You really can help someone with what you've been through rather than like this course that someone else is selling for you. And I talk about this too. I'm like, in my world, we're creating products and offers that we have other people market and sell for us. We're not marketing and selling for other people. And I've seen this even in my pro business where I've had people copy our products. I've had people who've come to me and be like, I want to market and sell this for you. I want to wholesale this. I also have had people who, email me and they're like, oh, I want to like feature your product on Twitch or on my streaming platform or whatever. And I'm like, this is the business we're building is someone else marketing and selling it for you. That's the
Yes.
legacy aspect. Like you need to be known. You don't want to be the one to market and sell for other people, which is where these faceless accounts are honestly just a disguise, literally, of them marketing and selling for someone else.
Totally, totally. And you're so right when you are having other people like sell your business or your products for you. But I think it goes the same way with service providers, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for
Oh,
me
yeah.
and for you as a business coach, there's that quote that's like the best, like people should be talking about you behind your back in
Yeah.
rooms,
I
right?
love
You
that.
want people to be talking about what you offer, how you help them, how you made them feel. I know for me,
Mm-hmm.
whenever I help someone start a podcast, one of my favorite parts is when I send them the link and it's live and they're like, oh my God, like they get so happy. And
Yeah.
that's the moment that I want to share with people. And so I'm sure, you share a lot of wins on your Instagram story of your clients. like when they hit a new revenue goal or have a new mindset about something that they might have felt some sort of way about before. And showing those is definitely a great way to not only like, of course it's marketing in a way, but
Yeah.
it's powerful marketing. It's like they
Yeah.
could do it, so can you.
Exactly. And I even posted a thread about this today just because these have been like shower thoughts flooding in my mind recently. And even going back to what you said about the sort of like, oh, you know, posting the cringy reels and like not wanting to do that, that sort of just stems from like this place of judgment. And so like what you judge in others is what you don't allow yourself to be or have. So it's like because you're judging someone on those cringy reels, you don't think that you're allowed to be cringy and post those reels. And that's like the sort of mindset work where it comes into the awareness of, oh, like crap, like I am not allowing myself to do that when really at the end of the day, like that's what I need to be doing. And then the same thing goes with like even celebrating your success. Like when we feel this resistance towards celebrating someone else's success, then we feel like we can't allow ourselves to celebrate our wins as well. So I'm sort of like I've been doing Wednesday wins just to normalize like, let's own our success. And this comes even back even from myself. Like when I had my business get published in Cosmopolitan magazine, I did not own that at all. I didn't talk about it until December of last year, and I randomly posted about it and people were like, oh my God, you did that? And I was like, oh, like I guess. And I
Yeah.
never, ever owned that. And that was a year and a half after it was published. I didn't tell friends. I didn't tell family. Like, I don't know what it was. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And
Oh
now I'm
my
like,
gosh, yeah.
I'm crazy. Like, I walk into Sephora and I see Selena Gomez's Rare Beauty and I'm like, holy crap, like my business is published in a magazine next to that. Like, that's big. But
That
it
is
takes,
big. Yeah.
it takes that like ownership. And so many of my clients too are kind-hearted, ambitious women, and they don't necessarily see their greatness, which is why I'm always starting with like, own how amazing you are, own your success. Like, you're so much better than you think you are.
Yeah. So who is it that you work with specifically?
I work with everyone from like coaches to online service providers, fitness instructors, even app builders, really a whole range of people, but I would say it is primarily like service providers. And then I do have like the one-off like product business or things like that. But really what I focus on is more of the who rather than what they do. And this is even what I talk about when it comes to value-based niching. I don't believe in calling in like all the people that are servers, like the people based on the industry. I believe on just calling in the amazing people. So it's not based on an industry, it's based on who they are. So I have different industries that I work with, and I love that differentiation in the people I do work with and the people I help. But they all have these common similarities of being someone who has a really big heart, who genuinely wants to help someone through their business and just in the way that they live. And they are ambitious, like they are determined, they see a future for themselves.
Yeah. Okay. This has got me thinking about when I first started my business, and I was like so inclined to help. I wanted to help everyone. And so I
Yeah.
wasn't niching down, but I also wasn't charging what I should have been charging. If someone came to me with a question, I kind of didn't think of myself as the expert. This was like 4
Yeah.
years ago when I was first starting. And so I was like, sure, here's the answer.
Yeah.
Right. And I
Same.
don't think that that should like ever, like, I never want to stop helping people, but also having to know your own worth and your time and like charging for your knowledge and expertise. I think that is a big shift that a lot of entrepreneurs go through somewhere between like, hopefully within the first year, but who knows how
Yeah.
long it could possibly take. So, what advice do you have for that? Because that kind of sounds
Yeah.
like the type of clients that you work with who want to serve and want to actually support
Yeah.
people. And then they're like, I am doing this for money. I have to make money.
Yeah. I mean, it even comes down to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of others. Like, you have to be able to provide for yourself. And the thing is like the people I work with, they are such givers. Like, they just literally would give the shirt off their back. They would do anything. Like, even me, I'm like, if I had $1 million, I would just do everything for free and I would still help. Like, that's just the kind of person I've always felt that I am. And why I'm here on this planet, to be honest. But it is really hard when you are such a giver and you have to balance that. But then also energetically, like you're getting drained because you're giving out so much of your energy, but you're not receiving anything in return, which then puts you in this cycle of like feeling overwhelmed, feeling burnt out, and just not able to be your best. And so when you think of it as an energy exchange where it's like, okay, people are paying me and they're receiving something back in exchange, I think that helps a lot of people who are givers realize like, okay, like this is, you know, just an energy exchange. But then also it does come down to like believing in yourself and believing that you are good enough and believing that your knowledge is something worth paying for. You know, in the coaching industry, you hear this a lot where it's about collapsing time. And this same thing applies to every single industry. I had a client who's studying neuromuscular therapy right now, and she was like charging €4 or £4 for class and teaching Pilates. And I was like, okay, you are literally invested in this whole program. You've spent 8 out of like 15 months studying this thing. Like you are helping people collapse time as well. Like you spent like an entire month of your life learning Pilates and learning the ins and outs of everything. When people come to your class, they're collapsing time. They don't have to learn about the different ways that it's going to help, you know, this part of their body and that part. They just have to come up, like show up to the class, and that's where you come in. You're helping someone collapse time as well. It's not just like coaching. So I think it does come to that and understanding like how much have you personally invested in terms of your like the coaches that you've invested in, the knowledge that you've invested in, how much time and energy you've spent into honing and crafting your skill. When you actually write that all down, you realize, wow, that's a lot. And so incorporating that into your pricing just sort of gives you that backbone of being able to be like, okay, I'm carrying all this with me. This is what I'm taking with me. That's something worth charging for.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't heard of that concept of collapsing time. I've heard of things like that, but never it phrased like that. And that makes so much sense. And that really is one of the main reasons, like I've invested in coaches. I'm sure your clients invest in your coaching because you've done it. And then you could teach them how to do it without having to maybe make as many mistakes. I mean, we've all made mistakes in business, and I think hiring a coach definitely makes those mistakes a little bit less. So super an interesting concept there. And another thing I wanted to ask you about is when you were, you know, promoting your apparel brand before you were in Cosmopolitan, you said that you were posting a lot, you were reaching out to people, and then you had to take some time off. And that's really interesting because when you did take that time off, maybe some alignment happened and then Cosmopolitan reached out. But there's also this concept of early on in business, and especially if you are wanting to serve as many people as you can and help as many people as you can, you try to work as much as you can, right? You don't really have that balance. And I would love to hear more about how you help your clients with this and any advice that you have for actually finding that balance so you're not hustling all the time.
Yes.
You know, you can take actions that make sense, but I think we try to do too much sometimes.
Yes. And I will say, like, this is something that doesn't even affect you just in the beginning phase. Like, this still happens where, you know, you get sort of in this cycle of like, oh, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more. There's always something that can be done and always something that you can do in your business, no matter what stage of business you're at. And so it is that like, sometimes it's too much where you get in this cycle and then you're overwhelmed and you lack that creativity and you're just going and going and going and you feel burnt out, and then you build resentment towards your business, and then everything feels like a chore rather than it's like, oh, this is so fun, like I get to do this, versus like the I have to do this. So I think it is really about like integrating life into business and sort of building that lifestyle business and understanding and realizing like you actually taking care of like your mental health, your physical health, your overall well-being, your happiness, your joy, all of those things, your friendships, relationships are progress and success towards your business, because when you're happy in the external world, that is going to filter and feed into your happiness in your business, how you show up. There is this like energetic magnetism. I even get like goosebumps talking about it, because it is so true. Like if you feel happy and you feel like, yes, this is what I'm doing, versus if you show up, you know, even with this like, oh, I have to do this, then it's going to come across so much differently. And you know, I'm 3+ years into business, and even this week I realized like I'm forcing it a little bit too much. So I'm taking a step back from content, only creating when I do feel inspired, because I noticed that. And I think that people also pick up on that, where it's like, okay, you're just doing things to do things, versus when you're doing it out of inspired action, and that hits completely differently. But there is so much to embodiment and to living and being the actual transformation of what you teach and what you offer and things like that, that people just love, and they want to know that you're human. Like personal brands and businesses do better than corporate nowadays. Like that's where the world is going. So people want that life. They want the connection. Even like for my business, when it does the best is when I am not working on it. Sometimes when I'm just like out and being happy, like when I'm at the F1, when I'm at lunch in Montenegro, is like when I got my Cosmo thing, when I'm like landing on a plane in Guatemala or at a spa. Like literally I don't understand, but it is that embodiment and energetics aspect too, which is why I say like it's mindset, it's heartset, and it's strategy. It's the combination of everything that really makes it a successful business. But when you succeed in your life, your business will also succeed, and it will be a reflection of that. So the best possible thing you could do, and when you work on yourself, you're also working on your business. The time that you spend at the gym is working on your business. Your mindset as a CEO and as a founder is going to be so much more resilient when you are going to the gym, when you are meditating, when you are doing these things, and when you're like happy and social and having fun. You're just gonna feel better, and so you do better.
I love that, because I think a lot of people do punish themselves of like, I have to get this done. I can't go out. I can't take that 1 p.m. Pilates class. I need to finish this, or I need to take another client call. And yes, those things might need to happen, but you're so right. Like you do need to focus on yourself first, because before we are business owners, we're still humans. And
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
our bodies are going to last longer than our businesses. And I think
True.
that's what a lot of people forget or just don't think about.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance to it, where it's like you have to balance and be self-motivated and self-disciplined to be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and do this, but also I do need to take care of myself as well. And you find often when you like, let's say you're going out to lunch with a friend, you come back with this fresh energy, and there's less of a roadblock to doing the tasks that you have to do, because you're not thinking about it as much. You're not like thinking into doing, you're just like naturally flowing into doing. And so it comes so much more naturally and easier when you are just enjoying yourself. And it's because of the fact, I mean, I could go into all the brain and neural things as to why, like your brainwave state, it basically just like puts you in that flow state, in that alpha state that lets you create easier. So enjoying yourself is going to help you do better, and you have to balance, like you are human behind your business.
Yeah. So have you always had an interest in all of this? Like, how did you learn meditation and
Yeah.
all like these neural pathways? How'd you learn all of this?
Okay, it started 2018. We were driving from LA to Vegas. I was in a car with my dad and his ex-girlfriend at the time, and we were going for New Year's. And she put on the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And I had always hated reading. Like, you would not catch me reading. I did not like it. And that book hooked me. And I was like, it opened me to this world of personal development. And from that point on, I was just like hooked. I was like, okay, 20 books a year, 30 books a year, 40 books a year, 50 books a year. Like, just always doing bigger and better, and was on this personal development journey. And that was when I was really starting in 2018. I was like, I want to be a life coach. Like, I want to get into this. Or 2019, actually. And then about 6 months into 2019, I had gone out of a toxic relationship. And I really was like rediscovering parts of myself, and I had heard about meditation, and there was this amazing studio in LA, Unplug, which still to this day is like a sanctuary for me, and I will always be like ride or die. But it was about 10 minutes from my apartment, and I started going once, and I really loved it. I was like, wow, that was actually really relaxing. And then I started going every single day, and within weeks I was like, wow, I'm a completely different person. And at the time, most of my life, I hadn't been able to sleep without TV. Like, I've just struggled with insomnia. I struggled with anxiety at night, like fear of the dark. And that was the first time in my life where I could fall asleep without lights on, TV on, anything. And I felt at peace. And the way in which I would get work emails, I was like, I'm unbothered. I'm good. Like, life was just so much better, and I noticed that difference in myself. And then it stemmed into, in 2020, just like putting out the meditation, and people were like, girl, you need to do this. And so I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, just continued on from there.
Oh, that's so cool. Do you have any books that you recommend for anyone wanting to get more into the self-development space?
Ooh, I have a whole list. Like, I keep a literature log, so it's kind of like a resume of books that I've read, because I just like love going back and looking at all the knowledge that I've acquired. And so if anyone wants that, like, I will give you, there's probably like 150 books on there.
Oh, amazing.
That range from spirituality to personal development to business to just like the way that you think and the way that you learn, intuition, all the things. So I'm happy to send that to anyone.
I mean, I kind of want to see that, but
yeah,
if you send it to me, I'll put the link in the show notes and everyone can go. Because reading is one of those things that I have recently gotten more into as well, but I only read like self-help development books. And at first I was like, maybe this is something I should reflect on. But I think that it gives the most impact in your life, and that's what I want to do, right? Like, if I want to watch something or like read something that's not self-development, I'll just go watch like Real Housewives or something like that. Like something that's not really building my brain cells up.
Exactly. Okay, one note on that, because I was the exact same, and then this year I was like, okay, I need a way to just like shut off. I can't just be like reading about business every night and morning and personal development. Like, this is my life, and I need to develop a little bit of areas outside of that. So someone had recommended to me A Court of Thorn and Roses, and Haley, I will die on a hill. Like, this is hands down one of the best books I've ever read.
Yeah.
I am obsessed. I've told my friends, she was like, Natalie, I get it. Like, thank you for showing me. This is the best thing I've had all year. And we both are like, how is this not a movie yet? Like, I feel like it's like Harry Potter. Like, I'm literally obsessed.
Okay, I love that. I love that. My cousin told me to read it too, and so
this is your sign.
This is my sign. I will read it. I will read it.
Amazing.
Yeah, because I'm like, Real Housewives probably is not, helping my brain at all. So
it might.
It helps my soul though. It does.
Yeah. Well, then that's fine. Like, who cares? It doesn't need to always help your brain. It helps your soul. I mean, these books honestly like are helpful to my soul too. It's just it's every emotion. Like, I just love it so much.
Okay, I'm definitely going to read those. Thank you for the recommendation. And I'm excited to check out that list of other books that you have too, because books really can, I think it's just like you can listen to podcasts and learn a lot from podcasts. One of the things I've been doing recently, and you have a podcast, so I want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've been doing lately is I've been getting into running more. I'm running a half marathon soon, and there's a lot around like running that is so interesting to me, like the nutrition around it and just the endurance. And so what I've started doing is going on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts and just looking up my questions and seeing what comes up. It's kind of like Google, but audio form. That's, side note, one of the reasons SEO in your titles is so important for all the listeners who might have podcasts. But like, it's so interesting because I'd rather listen to 45 minutes of someone talk about a certain topic than go scroll and scroll and scroll and figure out what. And so you have a podcast, and I love talking all about podcasting. And you're actually, since you are traveling, I want to talk about that too. Yeah. You're going on like a world tour for podcast guests for all the places that you're landing in. So why don't you tell us about your travel, your podcast, and how you really like manage both of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the Business with Heart podcast, and originally I had just started it as a way to nurture my audience more because I wanted it to be very personal, just like you and me, like we're having just like a heart to heart chat. I want to tell you, like, look, like you can do this. I want you to realize, have these realizations, and just talk about life and business in a way that wasn't like all strategy and things like that. It really was just like a heart to heart conversation was how it started. And then even a step before that, one of the things that I realized was, okay, who do I need to be in order to have the business that I want to have? And the missing piece was a podcast. And that was again where the identity work came into play. And I was like, I'm not like, I don't want to have these conversations. I don't necessarily see myself as the person having a podcast, but in order to have that which I want, I have to become this person. And so I went in with no expectations, and I sort of just like sat down one day and recorded, and I didn't want to filter myself. I was like, whatever, if there's pauses, gaps, everything like that. And I very much keep my podcast like that, like very authentic, unfiltered, because I just want it to be very natural. Like, here we are together. And so then it was this March, I realized like, okay, I want to take this podcast to another level. The first season is really just those like one-on-one heart-to-hearts, and I felt like that was easy to maintain as well because I didn't know I live in so many different places, and so having the like production set up and the perfect lighting and things like that just not always guaranteed. So it wasn't a video podcast at all. It was primarily audio. Like one day when I feel inspired, plug in my Yeti mic and I'm just gonna riff for like 15-20 minutes. But then I realized the potential of podcasts and how amazing it is for visibility purposes, for nurturing your audience, for being able to connect with other entrepreneurs. And I was like, this is the next level that I need to go. And I didn't really have like a direct envision of it, but I knew, okay, I'm going to be in Vegas in May, and I feel like I should do an in-person podcast. And immediately the person who came into my mind was Shannon Matson, the Social Bungalow, if anyone here knows her. And so I like wrote it down on a sticky note, and within like 24 hours, she had somehow found my profile, like replied to one of my stories and commented on my post, and I was like, okay, this is so random, but I literally was thinking about you yesterday. Like, do you want to do an in-person podcast? And she was like, sure. So I was like, okay, here we go. So this is my first one, and I really didn't know what it was going to entail, but honestly, after doing that, I was like, one, it's so amazing to connect with an entrepreneur who also does inspire you and who has led really well in this online space. And two, just like the ability to sit down and talk with that person, to pick their brain, like from a personal perspective, that's a gift. Like that's a gift that podcasting allows you. But then also the third, like to be able to provide that to your audience is also a gift. So there is so much value in like the conversations that you can have. And like we said at the beginning, like podcasting is just conversation. That's all it is at the end of the day. And then when I was thinking beyond that, I was like, okay, what next? And I realized like, well, duh, I travel. Why don't I just like make it so that I find someone everywhere I'm going and just turn this into people who not only inspire me or I've admired how they led or lead in business, but let's do in person in every place that I go. So my next destination was Austin, Texas, and I had my VAs kind of put together a list of people here, and she had found someone. I was like, oh my gosh, great find. I actually know this person indirectly. So I sent her a message, but she didn't have a chance to respond. Then 24 hours later, I was at a networking event. I walk outside and she's standing right there. And I was like, okay,
oh my gosh,
just like manifesting these guests left and right. Not sure how. So we are having our in-person podcast in about 2 weeks. And then I'm looking for someone in New York, and I'm going to look for people in Europe. I'm just like, let's just continue. Like, this is something that makes me unique and different, is the way that I travel around the world. So why not bring that into my podcast and find these really, really, really cool people? I'll even do like Australia at the end of the year, since I always live there each year. And why not find people along the way? So also, if anyone is listening to this and they happen to be like anywhere in Europe, let me know, because that one is going to be the biggest hurdle, I think, is like finding valuable people in Europe to really bring that insight. The US is so much easier and Australia is so much easier, but I'm like, Bulgaria, Romania, like who's there?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll keep an eye out for you. I want to just quickly touch on how you are able to, like, systems in place that you have, or maybe beliefs in place that you have, that you're able to travel the amount that you do and still support your clients and still run your apparel business. And like you mentioned in the beginning,
Yeah.
grow another business. Like what do you have to believe about yourself to be able to manage all of that?
I think one, non-negotiables, like understand what exactly has to get done and do those things every day. So like for example, like serving clients, without a doubt, non-negotiable. I have to be in my platform checking their messages every single day. That's a commitment that I've made. So like what are you committed to? Also understanding like what is a now thing versus a future thing. Like because a lot of times too we make things urgent and they're not necessarily urgent or priority. And so leaning into being more intentional in the way that you move and the way that you act is a really huge thing where you can almost get out of your own way. It doesn't all have to be now, and you end up even sometimes confusing your audience too much when you do move so fast versus moving intentionally. So I would say like move with intention, also understand what's going to move the needle the most. This is where I've really leaned into my business is that like ripple effect. And even where with podcasting, I was like, podcasting, huge ripple effect. If I'm reaching these people who have 100,000 followers and I'm bringing them on the podcast, the ripple effect of that is massive for my business, more than posting on social media for an entire month. Like, without a doubt, I'm going to reach more
For
people.
sure. Yeah.
So, like, I'm going to promote you there a little bit and be like, everyone start their podcast because when you look at it, the ripple effect, you're putting in less energy and less time and less hours, but you're getting a higher return. So looking at the actions that you're doing in your business and the ROI of that, am I getting the return that I want? And so focusing, on the massive action to get massive results rather than the smaller actions and doing more of them has been how I've shifted even my operations completely and also helped my clients. It's like I hear so many times people are like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I need to be at a different level in business, when really doing that thing is going to get you to that completely different level. So just having that mentality of like, why not? And just being like, okay, well, doing that thing is going to get me there is huge. From a systems perspective, I use Notion. I have my business hub that I use for managing my business, for both my businesses, for talking with my VAs and just communicating everything there and really managing each department of the business as well. And then I would say like living life first, like life is just so important. And again, like going back to that, if I died tomorrow, would I be happy? I'm very much a person who believes in like living your legacy now through your business, but then also just doing the things that you want to do. Like I've never understood like, oh, I'll do that when I'm 30, or oh yeah, like I'll do that next year. I'm like, why not now? Like go do that thing now. And that's why I can confidently say like I'm not even 30 yet, but I've crossed off more than half my bucket list, been to 39 different countries, and all of that experience has brought me knowledge and wisdom far beyond what I could have ever learned at a 9 to 5. Even through my own businesses, like I'm able to connect with people on a fundamental foundational level because I can understand their culture because I've been there. I can understand like where they grew up because I've visited there. And so that brings another layer of trust even to people that I work with because they're like, oh, like she gets it. And you don't learn that through working with someone. Like you don't learn that through like learning about a course or, just different ways of doing things. You learn that through actual experience. And there's things that experience and world travel and everything that you want to do teaches you that a course might not teach you, or even a coach or mentor might not teach you. Experiencing does. And being happy, like, again, there's the embodiment piece of when you live your best life, people are drawn and attracted to that. And honestly, like my business does best when I am an embodiment of that. And when I am living my best life, people are just like, wow, like this is amazing. Like, yeah, like that can be you too. Like you being your best is so magnetic and so attractive. And so when you realize, oh, my business does better when I'm enjoying myself and it gets to be this easy and it gets to be this good, those mentalities and like why not me can completely shift the way that you run your business. And those are the things that I would say that it's really important to adopt when it comes to building a business that you love and building a business while you're traveling or whatever that is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Non-negotiables are so important to figure out about yourself. And is that something that you help your clients with when they are
Oh
working
yeah.
with you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're like, because a lot of times people even do things that don't actually move the needle in their business. So they're focusing on, perfecting their website or like really creating this new offer and all the nitty-gritty details. I'm like, whoa. Like, we got to get people in the offer first. We have to market. We have to sell. Like, people need to know about you. Otherwise, what's the point of even having this offer? And so they're really focused on all the things that don't move the needle, when it's really like the massive visibility, the marketing, the actual selling that moves the needle in your business. It's not going to be, perfecting your systems and your operations and how do I make my Dubsado nicer? Like, these are not going, like, they're nice to haves, not need to haves.
Yeah, I love that. And how can people work with you? Like, what offers do you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my VIP days and my private mentorship. So those are the two primary ways to work with me. I'm also coming out with a new course, Subliminal Sales. So that will be all about how to sell without selling. And that's probably going to come out here at the end of the month, early July or early August. TBD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I've really loved this conversation, and I ask every guest this question, the way that I start wrapping up episodes, is if you could share 3 action steps for the audience to take based on this conversation. So instead of just listening and being like, that was a good episode and that's it, like, let's actually challenge them to do something to move forward in their business. What are your 3 things this week?
I love this. Okay, so number 1, I would say really get clear on the vision and the legacy that you want to leave, and ask yourself, do I want to be building someone else's vision, and what do I really want out of life? I think it's such a confronting thing, but if anyone needs help with this, like, I have an experience that all of my clients go through that will get to the root of this and really help you understand that better, and also inspire you to take the action now, because no more waiting. It's got to be now. Number 2 would be, really adopting that why not mentality and asking yourself, how can I be bigger and play bigger in my business, and realize like what I want also wants me, and what I am wanting to achieve, like how I get to that next level is by doing that thing. So really looking at how can I do things bigger, but it actually taking less time and less energy, rather than smaller but more things. And then the third would be like that identity as well, and really focusing on like, who do I have to be in order to have what I want, and believing in yourself, really listing down like, what are the things that make me amazing and great, and celebrating your success, and really owning who you are at the end of the day, and just making it a mental habit of like, it's almost like a gratitude for yourself and gratitude for everything you've done and how far you've achieved. I think it's like that quote where, we underestimate how much we can accomplish in 3 years, but if you would look back at like 3 years, you're like, wow, I've done a lot. But we underestimate that, how much we can actually accomplish. So beginning to own your success as well.
I love those. Those are amazing. And where can people connect with you?
Yeah, Instagram would be the best at coaching.by.Natalie.
Perfect. Cool. Well, I put that in the show notes along with your podcast, and I think you have some meditations up somewhere, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of them in my private mentorship. Perfect. However, in the future, I may have some offer coming out, or if people want like a meditation specific offer or just want to work with me in a meditation aspect, I do like one-off, and I'm happy to like give any that someone needs. Like if someone's like, I'm really stressed, I will put them in the right direction, give them the meditation. Someone needs to just feel like more at peace or more aligned, I got you. Just DM me and I can point you in the right direction.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, Natalie, thank you so much. This was so fun, and I loved getting to know you more. This is like one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, I love that. No, this has been amazing. Thank you, Haley. And likewise, I mean, it's just so fun to like sit and chat outside of our coaching and everything. Yes. And it's so nice to connect, and also be on a podcast with someone who is like the ultimate podcaster, like 100 episodes. You blew my mind with that.
Oh
goals,
gosh.
Absolute goals.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.